objection. Question number 7, Scott Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for the Environment and asks, what does the latest monitoring report on the Resource Management Act 1991 say about the number of late consents and the time it takes for new plans to be completed?
Mr. Speaker, Dr. Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, the number of late resource consents has dropped by 92% from over 16,000 in 2008 to just over 1,200 in the last year. This reflects the changes the government made in its first phase of RMA reforms, where there was a penalty on council if they went beyond the 20 statutory period. $450,000 of fees have had to be refunded, and I think that incentive has improved council performance. In terms of plan making, the average time for councils to write a plan is over 8 years, and to change a plan is over 4 years. That is much too slow when you've got a sector like housing moving from a lull to a boom inside 3 years, and that's why one of the most important priorities in the government's second phase of RMA reforms is to make changes to ensure that's a lot quicker.
Supplementary question, Scott Simpson.
To the Minister, what does the latest monitoring data on the Resource Management Act show in relation to consent monitoring and compliance?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Dr. Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, the report shows that 88% of resource consents in New Zealand are meeting all of their compliance requirements. That's to be welcomed, because a key purpose of the RMA is looking after the environment well, while simultaneously making sure we minimise the compliance costs. One of the further ways in which the government is wanting to improve that is through national environment standards, of which we have another 4 in the pipeline, so that we can get costs down while still protecting the environment.
Supplementary question, Scott Simpson.
Further to the Minister, what does the latest monitoring data on the Resource Management Act say about the cost of resource consents?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Dr. Nick Smith.
The report shows that $76 million have been spent over the last year in processing resource consents. It does show that there has been savings since our first wave of RMA reforms. One of the significant things it shows is that a decision to make a consent notified increases the cost by 5-fold. There are also cases still when the cost of a resource consent is greater than what the actual cost of the building project is, and again the RMA reforms that we have before Parliament allowing councils to waiver the need for a resource consent is the capacity to reduce that $70 million plus cost.
Question number